Hey there, this is the House of Strength podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Muncie, and today we are talking to Roy Krebs, co-founder of Natural Stacks. And Roy, say hello. Thanks a lot for hanging out with us again.
Hello, hello. Hey, Ryan. Happy to be back.
Roy, if you don't remember, has been on a podcast previously. It was episode number 20. So if you didn't hear that one, definitely go back and check it out. Roy talks a lot about how Natural Stacks came to be, why they're awesome and different. For people that didn't catch that, let's talk a little bit about who you are, what you guys do, namely the fact that you guys are the first open source supplement company on the market.
Right. And so open source is a term that you'll see in the programming world and the computer world, but we kind of coined it for what we're doing is not doing any proprietary formulas and keeping the formula transparent and listed on the product. You actually see the actual amount of each ingredient, the extract ratio of each ingredient. And then we also back up all of our formulas with the research and science that show the mechanisms of action. So we're very science-based, research-based, but then also mainly out of just respect for the consumer. And what we would want is we're very transparent in showing exactly what's in the product. No secrets.
Yeah, I like that. As a consumer, that's definitely something that I look for. I teach everybody I talk to, the front of the package is designed to sell you, so you need to go straight to the back, read the ingredients,
Right.
and see exactly what's in it. And a lot of times that tells a different story than what's on the front.
Right. And it's been, most people don't have enough understanding to look at the back and get a very clear picture. And it's almost disturbing, how many supplements out there hide behind these proprietary formulas and have 15, 20, even more ingredients in a proprietary formula where you don't know the amount of each ingredient. You don't know what you're taking really, and you don't know if it works or if it doesn't work, you don't know why.
Right, right. I think we talked about that last time on the previous podcast, especially with the branch chains that you guys have, where there's so many instances where if you look at the typical branch chain product on the shelves and you see, it's a proprietary blend of, 8 or 9 different amino acids, and hey, I just want my branch chains. I don't want all that other crap. So.
Right, right. And you're usually getting just minuscule amounts of each ingredient, basically so they can put it on their ingredient list so it makes it look like it's a more complex formula.
Right, right. And a lot of times they think companies know or think that consumers will think that means that it's better, but in reality, that's not always the case.
Right. And what we're seeing now is the consumer is getting smarter and there's more of a health movement and studies are becoming more accessible and easy to understand. And people in general, I think, are striving towards getting a clean product that they know exactly what's in it and what it can do for them.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. I think the consumer is becoming much more educated and much more conscious of what's going into their body, and I think that's something that I've always wanted, and that's something that you guys are fans of as well. And you not only strive to help educate people on that, but to provide those products, and that's one of the reasons that we love carrying you guys products in the gym and talking to you guys on the podcast. So.
Yeah, you've been carrying what natural stacks for at least 6 or 9 months now.
Yeah, I think about, gosh, yeah, it's hard to believe it's been that long.
Yeah,
Yeah, it goes back to last summer. So, yeah, almost a year now. So,
nice.
we can't keep the Siltep on the shelves.
All right, we'll get you another
So,
stock load.
but you guys have something new coming out, right? Tell us the big news.
Yeah, just in a couple weeks, early March, probably the first week of March, we're releasing a product called Prebiotic Plus.
Okay.
And so Prebiotic Plus is the first prebiotic complex product ever released, featuring 15 grams of net resistant starch per
Okay.
serving. So there's a few buzzwords in there that we'll need to clarify for sure.
Yeah. Let's. I actually told one of our members this morning in the class that we ran this at 5. We ran the 5 and the 6 a.m. classes this morning. I was telling somebody about this. So, and his first was, wait, I've heard of probiotics. What are prebiotics? So
Right.
let's get. What's the difference between pro and prebiotics?
Yeah, that's kind of a common thing, and a lot of people have heard of probiotics, and especially now, it's been marketed pretty heavily, um, which is interesting because so probiotics are live bacteria.
Hmm.
These are actual live bacteria that are found in yogurt and other dairy products, um, and are put into dietary supplements for probiotics. And probiotics have been shown to be effective in managing certain gastrointestinal conditions. Um, but one issue is that they're very delicate. And if you're going to buy a probiotic dietary supplement, you got to make sure it's a very high quality one, and that these bacteria are actually still alive.
Yeah,
Um, and
that's the hardest part, I think, because even if you find the ones that are sold in the refrigerated case, you're assuming that the guy who drove the truck that delivered them didn't park out in the sun, and
right,
they weren't in the back of that 18 wheeler for 6 months or however long it may be.
right. It's really hard to really gauge that, and they're also delicate. So heat, as you say, or stomach acid can easily kill probiotics, and they must compete with 1,000 other species of bacteria already in your gut. Um, so what we found is a more effective way to get healthy gut flora is by prebiotics. So to keep it simple, prebiotics are food for probiotics. And if you can get the right mix of prebiotics and probiotics in your gut, then you can achieve optimal digestion, metabolism, and these other benefits. So prebiotics are different than probiotics. Prebiotics are starchy plant fibers that can't be digested normally by the body. So they go through your stomach, they go through your small intestine completely intact and don't get broken down until they get into your large intestine and your colon, where you have um, a large amount of probiotics that are growing in your gut. So unlike other starches, like a simple carbohydrate that is broken down during digestion and converted into glucose or energy that can cause insulin spikes and elevated blood sugar, prebiotics travel all the way through to your digestive system untouched, and then once they get to your colon, they feed your probiotics. And, and so naturally, prebiotics, or these starchy fibers, can be found in beans and certain grains and certain vegetables, but they're kind of harder to find, especially in this developed world that we're in. Um, there's actually some interesting studies that show that people in the undeveloped third world countries are on a daily basis consuming 3 or 4 times as much resistant starch as say Americans are, and then you notice that Americans have all these gut and digestive problems.
Yeah. That's interesting. And another thing that I would see as a difference between those two populations is that Americans are eating a lot of processed foods, and a lot of
Right.
things like sodas are a culprit that will clear out the beneficial bacteria and create a need to actually take probiotics. Uh,
Exactly.
so
Yes.
so
So
it's
processed food, refined sugar, processed food, processed grain oils,
mhm.
all these things hurt your gut microbiome, your biome. They feed the bad bacteria, and they cause inflammation. Um, so prebiotics feed your good bacteria, and these are the bacteria that you're trying to get when you take probiotics. Um, so
So really, instead of looking for that pill that solves everything, meaning like the probiotics, we could just stop eating crap and our gut would get better. To an extent.
yes,
To an extent.
yes, yes, and
I'm
if you focus on
oversimplifying that, but just trying to make a point.
focusing on these fibrous starches, prebiotics, you'll feed the good bacteria, and then we'll flush away the bad bacteria, and you'll. It takes a week or two, but you'll develop a gut culture where you're having much more. It will shift from having more bad bacteria to having more good bacteria, and then you'll start to see the benefits.
This is you guys are doing some really revolutionary stuff. I mean, like you said, this is the first product of this type on the market. I mean, people have been doing all kinds of crazy stuff. If you look back at the history of, biohackers, to use that buzzword, I mean, I've heard stories of people taking fecal suppositories from
Right.
someone else who has a healthy gut biome to try to improve their own. So, something like what you guys are bringing to the market is a very useful tool to be able to get this done.
Yeah, and I mean the effects are real. Well, I'll talk about that a little bit more of what this can really do for you, but my sleep has improved 100% in the last couple of months when I've been experimenting with resistant starches.
Okay.
Uh, so how it works is that the prebiotics or the resistant starch, uh, it's called resistant because it's resistant to digestion. So prebiotic resistant starch is kind of the same thing.
Hmm.
Uh, certain resistant starches are called prebiotics, certain prebiotics are called resistant starches. It's kind of the same thing. This uh, prebiotic, once it gets into your colon or your large intestine, your probiotics ferment the prebiotics. They break it down into short chain fatty acids, acetate, and namely butyrate. Now, butyrate is this amazing short chain fatty acid. Dave
Most
Asprey talks
most
about it a
commonly
lot.
found in butter.
Butter, yeah,
Yeah.
found in butter.
Yeah.
So so instead of digesting the butyrate, which can get broken down and may not be the most optimal way to increase butyrate in your
Right.
body, if this is basically happening from the inside. So you're feeding your probiotics, which break down the prebiotics into these short chain fatty acids, and these fatty acids, namely butyrate, help maintain the proper pH in your gut, which lowers inflammation, increases healthy digestion and metabolism. Really, the main thing is anti-inflammatory and boosting your body's immune response. But there's now a lot of studies going back maybe 10, 20 years showing that these resistant starches can also help regulate your blood sugar, help control your hunger, um, and of course discourage the growth of these unfriendly bacteria, which can cause havoc on your digestive system.
Right. Right. So you said something earlier where I think you said a serving of this. It is a powder, correct?
It's a powder,
Okay.
yes, that could be mixed with either just water or thrown in your smoothie. Um, it's a powder mix,
Okay.
and yeah.
And 15 grams of resistant starch per serving. So based on what you just said, it sounds like, let's say somebody was on a low carb diet or paying attention to nutrient timing. This is not going to, your body doesn't respond to this the same way it would to other carbohydrates, say.
Right, and I'm glad you brought that up because it's a very good complement to someone that's on a very low carb diet because it's not digested like a carbohydrate. When you think of the word starch, a lot of people that are in our world get freaked out and think that it's going to spike their blood sugar and it's going to mess up their ketosis. But um, it's actually been shown. Richard Noakley over at Free the Animal, which is a blog that he runs, uh, used keto sticks and did a series of tests showing that resistant starch did not affect ketosis at all. And this is because it's not digested until it hits your colon and is fermented. It's not. It doesn't break down in your small intestine and in your gut like most starches do.
Okay. Very cool. That's very cool. So how many servings are we talking a day? What's the best time of day? Give us a little bit of the best practices for using this.
Sure. So what you'll start with just half a serving a day for maybe a week to get your body used to this because um, a lot of times people are quite deficient in resistant starch, and it takes a while for your gut biome to switch and to start growing these friendly bacteria. And so if you take too much right at the start, uh, you might be a little gassy. Um, but if you work your way up, then you'll see the real benefits. So about half a serving a day, and then after a week, you can start experimenting with 1 to 2 full servings. And we recommend in the evening because it really does cause some reduced anxiety, some better mood, and deeper sleep. For me, like half an hour after taking some resistant starch, I'm crashing out, which has been awesome. And how that works is that uh, the increased butyrate levels from fermenting the prebiotics have been shown to increase the production of GABA, which is an essential neurotransmitter in the brain, which is associated with mood and anxiety. So there's a lot of people talking about the gut-brain connection, and it's been amazing as I've been learning about this, that changing your diet and putting the right things in your gut are going to change the levels of neurotransmitters in your brain. Prebiotics also feed serotonin producing bacteria in your gut, and serotonin converts to melatonin when darkness falls. So the result is just this very calm state where you have this mental clarity, and it just sets you up for hours of deep restorative sleep as it's working in your gut, increasing GABA and serotonin, and reducing inflammation and immunity, which is also very tied to sleep. So that's why we recommend taking it in the evening. You can still take it during the day. If you're just out doing your normal stuff, you're going to be fine. You're not going to fall asleep in the middle of what you're doing. But it does have a relaxing effect, so I think it works best in the evening.
Okay. All right. Very cool. So you mentioned better sleep. Some of the other benefits that we hear, related to resistant starch or prebiotics are going to include, like you said, lowering anxiety, improving body composition, improving digestion, like you mentioned, even lowering the risk of, some of the common illnesses. So any of those that you want to expand on?
Really going back to it, everything is tied to inflammation. And butyrate, these short chain fatty acids, fight inflammation. That's their main job, and it's really the inflammation that's tied to all these benefits.
Can we talk about that a little bit? I mean, I know a lot of people are going to hear short chain fatty acids. Wait, they're not used for energy. It's maybe interesting to some people to hear that what might be considered an energy source or thought of as an energy source is going to help fight inflammation.
Yeah, well, they are an energy source for the cells in your colon. But it's not like glucose, which is burned really fast and turned into this immediate energy. And if you don't use it, it can be turned into fat or inflammation. It's completely different, and the butyrate, like I've been saying, it decreases inflammation and increases the production of these neurotransmitters.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not trying to put you on the spot and turn it
Yeah.
into a metabolism lesson, but I don't think listeners can hear enough that drinking butter or eating something that's turned into a fatty acid won't make me fat. I think that's so it's been drilled into people's heads for so
Right.
long that if we say, oh, here's a carbohydrate powder that won't be digested, this is going to go into your gut and be turned into a fat. No, you're not going to get fat. So
Right, we're battling with a few, fat and starch carbohydrates are known to maybe not be the most health foods, but um, the way that this product is, so I'll go into what the ingredients are.
okay.
The first ingredient is raw, unmodified potato starch. Has not been cooked, has not been exposed to high heat. Raw potato starch granules, which has probably the highest amount of resistant starch out of any other substance. You can also get resistant starch from cooking and then cooling potatoes, or cooking and then cooling rice, like sushi rice is a great source of resistant starch. But a lot of these ways to get resistant starch are pretty hard to get, and so just this raw, unmodified potato starch is really the best, and then we combine that with green banana flour. So this is bananas before they turn ripe, don't have the sugar content, and they have a lot of the starch. But once bananas turn yellow and turn ripe, they become very sugary and they lose the starch. So this is bananas that are picked green and then milled immediately, turning into just a banana flour that's from the green banana. It has a hint of banana flavor in there, but it's more mild because it doesn't have the sugar in there. And the third component to the resistant starch complex is inulin from European chicory root, which is another starchy fiber that's been shown to reduce the blood sugar glucose response and increase the growth of these beneficial bacteria. And that's it for the resistant starch ingredients. And there's only two other ingredients in there. We like to keep our formula simple. It's to give it a good taste that can go along with anything, and to kind of mask the potato starch. We added trehalose. Have you heard of trehalose?
Yes.
You have? Okay.
Yes.
Most people haven't, which I'm excited to kind of release it to the world and provide more information about it. It's referred to as mushroom sugar. That's the main source of this stuff is from mushrooms and algae and some seeds. But unlike sucrose or table sugar, it's only, I think, 38% as sweet and has a much lower glycemic index and a slower digestion process. So it's this kind of super nutrient that also has these studies of helping resist neurodegenerative diseases and all these longevity benefits coming from this sugary-like substance.
A lot of the same benefits that you'd see from some of the supplements that utilize, mushrooms and algae, like spirulina or things like that.
Right. So it has strong neuroprotective and even antidepressant benefits, which works great with this product. So that's what we're using to sweeten it a little bit.
Okay.
And then we're flavoring it with cinnamon, and we're using Ceylon cinnamon, which is really the highest quality, most delicate, I guess, floral tasting cinnamon, opposed to this kind of more harsh cassia cinnamon, which is typically sold at the stores.
Okay.
And that's it. That's the formula. So it's 3 different sources of resistant starch, and then enhanced with trehalose and cinnamon.
Okay.
And cinnamon's also been shown to increase metabolism and help digestion and things like that.
Yeah, and it's good for blood sugar response.
So, right.
Yeah, awesome. So when you take yours, are you mixing it with water? Do you put it in smoothies, or?
I've done both. Mostly I just mix it with water.
Okay.
It actually mixes really great, which has been a fun, formulating the product has been fun, because just straight potato starch is a great source of resistant starch, but when you mix it with water to take it, it kind of clumps up and congeals into these little gloopy balls that don't taste good and has this really weird texture.
Yeah.
But when we mix it with these other ingredients, it actually mixes really well just in water with a spoon, and tastes great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So we covered, how it's different from probiotics. We talked about benefits. We got best practices. Those are really the only questions I have for you in regards to this. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you want the world to know?
No. I think it's going to be really interesting for us just to kind of get the initial response and see how people like it, because there was, I guess, in the paleo world blogosphere, the term resistant starch really got some buzz, I'd say, about a year ago.
Right.
Because in the low carb paleo world, everyone is really scared of starches and keeping their carbs low. So it kind of hit the blog circuit, and I think there's a decent amount of people that know about it. But like I said, there hasn't been any products to support this research and to support the benefits.
Right. Yeah, I've heard a few of those people in that blogosphere that have used straight potato starch or the banana flour individually, but no product has really been out there. So.
Right, and you can do that. You can go out there and try to find some potato starch or banana flour, which is harder to find. But like I said, the experience just isn't that nice. It's just gloopy, little, almost balls of starch that It's not the nicest. So this formula
Yeah.
is really it tastes great. It mixes great. You can mix it into your regular smoothie. It goes great with like a vanilla based protein or even a plant based smoothie.
Okay.
Mixes in really well. And yeah, we're trying to keep the price point low and aggressive to make it really accessible to people. It's going to be a 1 pound unit, so a decent amount of resistant starch in each unit, and should give really people what they need to help fill in their diet with this resistant starch, which most people are missing.
Okay. Well, I can't wait. I know we'll be first in line to try it. I'll let you know. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, in a couple of weeks, I'll make sure you get at least one
All
shipped
right.
to your door so
All right.
you and your
Definitely.
team can try it out.
Yeah, definitely. So, well, we talked about kind of your bedtime routine. What one of the things that we've talked about with a couple other guests on the podcast, morning routines, and that's something that can kind of make or break your day. The more we get into a positive or healthy routine, the more it can become just natural to have a great day and not one of these things that you hope for. You can actually set yourself up to do that. So, if you don't mind, we'd love to hear your morning routine and how you get your day rolling.
Sure. And this has kind of morphed, I guess, over the last couple of years, and I think it's maybe continuing to morph. But I have found a certain step to things that have gotten me in the right mode to really be able to grind out work and just get my mind in a place where I'm happy and motivated and feeling good. So what I do is um, first I haven't used an alarm clock in a long time, so I don't wake up with an alarm clock. I just wake up naturally, which typically happens, I guess, around 8:30 or so. Sometimes 9, sometimes 9:30. I really don't want to just like get out of bed because it's I should or something. It's more um, I want to get a good night rest,
Right.
and I get up when it feels natural. So no alarm. I immediately go down to my kitchen and I take some Siltep, usually about 3 or 4 times a week, and then I'll turn the hot water on to get the process going to make my coffee. As that's happening, I'll go to my office and I'll hang upside down on my inversion table. Uh, this is something that I've been doing now for maybe 6 or 9 months, and it's been amazing. Uh, so I'll hang upside down for maybe 10 minutes. Sometimes I'll listen to a couple songs while I'm doing that and just kind of clear my head. Um, you get this blood rush going to your head, which I think increases this energy and almost activates Siltep to a different level. Um, and it just stretches out, opens up your vertebrae. You've been compressed, you've been sitting, you've been laying down. It just opens up your vertebrae. And for me, I've had some knee problems that really help stretch out my knees. Um, and then when I come off of the inversion table, it's amazing to me every time I'm just standing. I notice how my shoulders are back and I'm standing very straight and taking these deep breaths and just feeling really good. And so, after that, I go down and make my bulletproof coffee. And once I got the coffee in my hand,
Watch out.
watch out. Typically, I also do just a little bit of light stretching, maybe 5-10 minutes, either right before or after the inversion table, just to move my body. I think that helps a lot. Loosen up everything that has been tightened over the last 12 hours. Um, so really, I guess my routine is no alarm clock, um, Siltep, inversion table, light stretching, sometimes some music, and then after I do those things, which is maybe only 15-20 minutes in the morning, uh, I'm ready to attack, and I can sit down and just work for 4 or 6 hours. I take breaks, obviously, and maybe every hour or half an hour, I kind of walk around and play with the dogs or something. But that 20 minutes in the morning really sets me up for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And that's been awesome for me.
Yeah. That's really cool.
What about you? What's your morning routine?
Well, I kind of have two. I have like an A and a B.
Okay.
The A is, like I said, today. We'll use today as an example. So we have a 5 and a 6 a.m. Morning session that we run at the gym. So today was one of the days where I ran that. So I'm up at 4 o'clock. I go straight to the kitchen, turn on the hot water, and I drink I call it a morning elixir or a detox drink every single morning. First thing that goes into my body is warm water, a tablespoon of organic lemon juice, tablespoon of raw organic apple cider vinegar, a teaspoon of sea salt, and a dash of cayenne. So I warm that up, make that, drink it, take
So why
whatever.
warm? Is it kind of easier to mix when it's warm, or
No, the when the warm goes in, it opens up your digestive system or your digestive tract, rather than that cold water, which is going to make everything kind of
sure?
lock up. Um, and there's just something about that. And actually, as soon as I mix it, I'll stick my face in it and just inhale a couple of times as deeply as I can. It always makes you blow your nose or sneeze, and it clears you up. And I'm at 4 in the morning. That wakes you up, and um, it doesn't matter what time you do it. But it
That
should be.
sounds nice. Yeah.
It's the
It.
first. It's the first thing I drink. It doesn't taste the best, but I don't do it for taste.
Yeah.
So while that's going, then the hot water's ready for the coffee. So I grind my beans. I put them in the French press. I use a French press. So while it's brewing, I run through the shower real quick, come down, throw it in the blender, blend it up, grab whatever I need. I'm out the door. I hit the gym and run the sessions. I like those days because the second your feet hit the ground, you're at 100 miles an hour. And when you're running a class, you've had that, you're up and you've got to have that high energy. And
Right. People are looking for you to have the energy when they
yeah,
might be lagging.
yeah. So then when that's done, it's still 7 in the morning, and I'll just sit down on the computer in the office at the gym, and I just bang out work for, like you said, another 4 or 6 hours. And so that's an A day. A B day is actually very similar. It's the same routine. It might not start at 4 in the morning. It starts probably at 6 or 7, depending on the day. Um, and then I try to mimic that routine. I try to hit the ground running, uh, and it's almost like racing my coffee to run through the shower. And then, like you said, once you get that coffee in your hand, and you've done that morning routine, whatever it is that you do. And it's like we tell people who are getting started on a journey at the gym. The first step is the hardest, and once you break that resistance or that momentum, you're going. An object at rest stays at rest, and an object in motion stays in motion. So
Right. It's almost not the same. Once you get into a routine like this, it's almost hard to. I find it like on the weekends. If I don't have an immediate to-do list, it's like, shit, I'm ready to go.
yeah,
uh, Give me something to do, or I'm gonna go work out, or I'm feeling good in the morning.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really nice on like I usually have one day a week where I don't have any of that, and I get up and I'll really get to enjoy my coffee because I'm not drinking it while I'm working or running around. And you can kind of sit down, and I'll either meditate or sit quietly and kind of just you let those thoughts come in instead of trying to force your hand or whatever. And those are the days that are high creativity days. You get all those great ideas, and then yeah, like you said, go work out. That's a great workout day. Uh, so
Yeah.
you're fresh, you're fully recharged. So, well, last time we talked, your workouts, you were doing Body by Science. Are you still doing that?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
So once a week, and typically it's about Tuesday or Wednesdays, maybe today. I don't give myself a set day. It's kind of like, if I'm feeling up to it, I just I handle it, and it's only a 20-minute workout. I do it right before lunch. So I'll do my morning routine. I'll work, and then I'll take a break, and I'll work out, and then eat lunch after that. But yeah, I love it. And I kind of been changing up I just have like I said last time, two 40-pound dumbbells. So I need to get some different weights, but I change up the exercises a little bit, and it's the same thing: super slow, very controlled, 6 or 7 breaths up, 6 or 7 breaths down, and just fatigues you. I feel like I'm getting a metabolic workout at the same time. Um, and in 20 minutes, I can hit all the main muscle groups and really be sore for a day or two and feel like I got a really good workout.
Yeah.
Um, I do that I just do it once a week to kind of maintain what I got going on and stay in good shape. Um, Recently, I've been canoeing a lot.
Okay.
That's kind of my auxiliary workout. I got this nice, like mid-60s antique wooden canoe.
Nice.
Which is very cool. It doesn't have a keel or anything, so it's got this. You really have to focus on your balance,
Okay.
and there's lakes and rivers really everywhere where I live, and I can just throw on the car and go jump on a lake and just paddle,
That's awesome.
paddle,
Yeah.
paddle for hours, and it's a great workout, and it's nice to be outside and to do that. I think I'm going to get a mountain bike here pretty soon, and that'll be another auxiliary workout. So I try to just do kind of random things, and
Yeah.
every once in a while I'll go outside and run a couple of sprints, but I'm not a runner. I've never enjoyed that. But yeah, the Body by Science has been my go-to.
Okay. So if you're lifting once a week, getting a couple auxiliary workouts in, maybe, how many times a week are you floating?
Floating, yeah, as much as I can, really.
I'm so jealous.
And I guess on average, it hasn't been weekly. It's been maybe every 2 weeks.
Okay. So for people listening, we touched on floating in one of our previous podcasts with one of our guests, Pete, who's in New Jersey. He's a gym owner up there. He owns Crank Fitness Systems.
Okay.
I've only gotten to float one time, and I did it in New Jersey with Pete. Our closest float place is probably 3 hours away. So if we had,
are you sure? They're starting to pop up everywhere.
Dude, I'm positive. Unless we want to build one, which I'm not opposed to.
Yeah.
But we talked about it a little bit. So for people listening who don't know what in the world this is, we're talking about basically a sensory deprivation tank, water that is skin temperature, so you don't feel it, 1,000 or so pounds of salt, and that keeps you floating. What else you got on that?
It's completely dark.
Yes.
There's no sound. And like you said, it's very buoyant, so you almost don't feel, and the water's your skin temperature, so you don't really feel the water, and you don't feel any muscle tension because it is so buoyant that you can really relax your entire body and not have to be supporting. Just even as we're sitting here, we're having to support different muscles, and
Right.
different muscles are strained. But when you're laying in this highly salt water, you have so much buoyancy that you can just kind of let everything go. And since it's like sensory deprivation, so it's really just you and yourself for an hour or more. I've been starting to go a little longer each time, to about an hour and a half. But just you and your thoughts, you can kind of hear or feel your heartbeat, and that's kind of trips you out a little bit at first. But you have to get to that state where you just let go, and the more you do it, the better you can get at playing the fine line between almost unconsciousness and consciousness, and almost this dream state, where you can very much just let the ideas come to you and flow information through your head in such a way that's completely different than normally. I've heard people say it's an easy way to meditate. So it's almost an easier way to get your brain into that deep meditative state.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. I mean, I think one of the hardest things with learning to meditate is blocking out distractions. And if you go in one of these, there are 0 distractions.
Right, and the distractions is yourself and your brain and your thoughts, and you have to almost be able to, if a thought comes in and you don't want to think about it, you have to just remove it.
Yeah.
Right, and just have that process, then all of a sudden you get these thoughts come in your brain, and they're kind of amazing. And it's like, wow.
I always want to go,
Yeah,
or the one time we went, I swore that if I ever went back, I would take one of those like voice recorders and somehow mount it above my head so that as those aha moments come in, you can speak them and
right.
let them go so you stay in that moment, but so that they're saved for later.
Yeah, I've had that problem a couple times while floating. Is you had this amazing idea, and then you don't want to lose it, so you get like you try to keep the idea in the back of your head, and it kind of messes up
Yeah,
your
yeah,
relaxed flow state.
yeah.
I
You
know what
can't
you
you
mean.
can't hang on to it and stay in the moment. So
Yeah, but I really try to do this as much as I can. I've made good friends with the people over at Float Seattle. Um, Shout out to those guys. They have this amazing facility, and the start to finish experience is just very calm and tranquil. Um, I like to do it in the morning. So first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, and sometimes I'll even wake up early so I have time to go floating. And on a completely empty stomach, fasted state,
hmm
first thing in the morning, just laying in that sensory deprivation tank for an hour and a half, coming out of there,
that
I'm
would be
just
great.
so happy and content and kind of ready for anything.
hmm
It just really resets you and recharges your battery and is a way to just open up doors and kind of bring in new ideas. Um, I've also experimented taking Siltep before floating, and that's an interesting thing. And some people actually really like it. There's probably 10 float places that are now carrying Siltep.
Oh, sweet.
Uh, yeah, so
So how was your float experience different taking Siltep?
right. It's I found it easier to organize and flow my thoughts more efficiently. So with Siltep, it's almost this double-edged sword where you have almost more thoughts going in, but for me it's easier to organize and to understand than if I'm not
Okay.
taking Siltep.
Right.
And it's I've heard this before from other people that enjoy Siltep, that it's helped them meditate, or it's Siltep has helped them get into this mental state of meditation.
hmm
And it's almost like it gives you a little more control over your brain. It's a little hard to explain, but it gives you a little more control. And I don't do it all the time because I really like the empty stomach, completely fasted, no caffeine, no nothing as I
Right.
float.
Right.
But sometimes I really enjoy being on that little elevated mental state as I'm going into this flotation tank. It's a cool experience.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll have to experiment with that if I can get back into a float tank.
I've seen you should uh, you have to figure out the sound thing because you want to keep it quiet.
hmm
But I've seen these homemade float tanks, which are just like basically a big kiddie pool. uh, I haven't done the research into it, but
I'll have to
it'd be a
Google
fun
that. Maybe we'll,
project.
we'll put that in the show notes. Make your own float tank.
Yeah, yeah.
Or that can be like the next podcast. I'll make my own. We'll make like a how-to video.
It's really been amazing. This whole float thing. I actually went to the float conference last year, which is
Yeah.
in Portland, and I think just since Joe Rogan started talking about it, it's the whole industry has kind of taken off, and it was a popular thing back in the '70s, but no one really took it seriously. I think it was
Yeah.
just
I
another
mean,
hippie thing,
yeah.
and then now there's this whole revolution, and there's there's three new float places around me that have been opened in the last 6 months, and
That,
they're starting to pop up everywhere.
it's crazy that nobody championed it until he did, and I mean, really, he started talking about it on his podcast, and it exploded, and that's where I heard about it. And
Yeah.
the guy I went with, Pete, when we went in New Jersey, the place we went was I believe it's called Serene Dreams, but it's the one that like Joe went to, or he had been to that one. They had his picture or
Okay.
like on the website or something. So
Yeah. Well, I know
uh,
that Joe has his own in his basement now.
yeah, and he talks about going
Yeah.
into it quite frequently, and to help write material or
Yeah.
whatever. So
Now, and I haven't tried, LSD and stuff before floating, but I hear that's pretty wild.
Yeah, I don't know that our audience isn't the same as his.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So, well, Roy, before we let you go, you've done our close before, which is
I
typically
forgot what it was. Oh no. What
yeah. So
is
it's typically one question in two parts. On topic, what's the most important thing that you want people to take away from this? And then off topic, what's the biggest piece of advice that you could give somebody? So let's keep part A the same. Out of everything we talked about, if people only take one thing away from this podcast, what would you want them to take away and implement?
sleep. Uh, Sleep is so important, and if your sleep is disrupted even in the least bit, you're going to feel it the next day, whether you realize it or not. And so, setting yourself up to getting a good night's sleep is really the most important thing you can do for yourself in terms of just your general health and well-being, and how well you can perform the next day. Um, so there's many things you can do to help with sleep. Resistant starch is one of them. Prebiotics. So getting the right nutrition to optimize your sleep is one thing, but also your environment. No bright blue lights within a few hours of sleep. Limit the caffeine in the afternoon and the evening. Get some blackout shades. Keep your sleeping environment very dark and quiet, um, so that your mind is relaxed. And the time that you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to go to sleep, it shouldn't take you an hour to fall asleep. If you set all these things up the right way, you should be able to fall asleep within minutes and stay in this deep REM sleep, which is where all this magic happens. So, number one thing to take away is sleep. If you're not sleeping well, figure it out and fix that first before anything else.
All right, that's a great one. Um, your previous answer to part B was something along the lines of have fun, do cool stuff, be a good person, something like that.
So
So
that sounds a little cheesy and generic. Shit.
it wasn't cheesy and generic. It was well done. I'm
Okay.
paraphrasing and making it cheesy, so I apologize. So if you could off topic or on any particular topic, whatever, you know what I'm getting at. Best piece of advice you could give our listeners.
uh, get outside, see the sun, see some trees and some greenery, um, walk around, get a little wet, muddy, whatever it is, feel like an animal.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like
I
it.
think I think that's another thing, just like floating, that can just completely reset your day and reset your mood. Is just switching the environment, going to a natural setting, and just breathing, living and being a primal human, I guess. I don't know.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm convinced. I love it. I love it. So, all right. Well, everybody listening, thank you for hanging out with us today. Make sure you check out Roy and Natural Stacks. Roy, tell everybody where to find you guys.
Yeah, naturalstacks.com.
Okay.
And if you want to check out our new product, Prebiotic Plus, it will be out early March. You can just go to naturalstacks.com, search for Prebiotic Plus, sign up for our newsletter, stay on top of the new products coming out. We will have some more this year.
Okay. Awesome. We will put all those links in the show notes. We'll post a video version of this on our blog. We'll send it
Awesome.
out to all the people on our email newsletter. And if you want to stay up to date with all of our blogs and everything that's going on at House of Strength, make sure you head over to our website, check this out, sign up for our newsletter as well. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time.